I feel like every guy that I thought was hot in the past is now like controversial. Um, Let me think about that. Like, I know literally, I'm like Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp.
Alex, I am geeking out over this interview. Founding father, Alexandra Cooper. This is a dream come true because I am such a fan and a daddy gang stan. So congratulations on all your success. You are such a boss, and they're going to have to beep out so much of my first intro.
I love it.
But
Every single interview I go into, I'm always cursing. I'm like, am I allowed to say that? And it's like, well, here we are.
here we are. You know what? Canada we can just add that little censor. It's totally fine. Gosh, I mean, there's so much to talk about your career and the evolution of your last 5 years. I feel like you've just gone through this incredible rise, and we've just been watching you and cheering you along. So how does it feel to have such a dedicated fan base called the Daddy Gang?
It's so crazy because they literally mean everything to me. And I feel like I prioritize them over any other relationship in my entire life, which I'm working on with my therapist. My boyfriend's like, I do exist. I'm like, no, but the Daddy Gang. It's truly been like the greatest growth of a relationship, I feel like, that I've ever put work into. I care so much about them, and they completely are a huge part of the show, and they dictate what I'm going to be doing in the show. So it's a very it's very like two-way street rather than just like me talking to them. I feel like that's something that makes Call Her Daddy very unique, is like they are just as much a part of the show as I am.
You know, Call Her Daddy has gone from you talking about your life in New York, your dating life, your sexcapades, your best friends, all your wild adventures, to this multi-million-dollar podcast that has been explosive, and it's one of the most popular podcasts in the world. What makes the podcast stimulating for you?
I think as a creator, I always try to come from it as a person that is also a consumer. Like, I'm Gen Z millennial, and so I know what like makes me interested on the internet, and I know what I like to watch, and I know what I like to consume. And so I think that the show, why it stays so stimulating for me, is because I don't try to just stick to one thing because that's what you're supposed to do with the show and have a format. Like, Call Her Daddy is so successful because you never know what you're going to expect. That keeps me as a creator on my toes and fulfilled. And I think it also does that for my audience.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm going to just pause the next question because I see Henry.
Henry's just in the background.
That is the best thing ever.
He's the star of the show.
I'm in the presence of greatness right now because everybody is obsessed with Henry, including yourself.
He's literally the star of the show. Every single time I meet people, they're like, oh no, I want a picture with Henry. I'm like, oh, perfect.
That's amazing. Hey, that's like next level. One thing that you've talked about is the misogyny you've dealt with and so many derogatory remarks. How do you push through that? How do you continue to build the Alex Cooper empire?
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, like it's not a secret that when I started this show, it was very sex and relationship heavy. And I'm so proud of that. I think for a while I was made to feel like I should be ashamed of what I used to talk about, when really it was so liberating. And I think it helped so many young people just start to like embrace the concept of openly talking about conversations that are deemed taboo in society, when it's like, wait, we're all talking about it behind closed doors. Why can't we all just openly connect on it rather than feel ashamed for it, especially as women? So I think obviously I've had some road bumps that I've had to kind of try to overcome just in terms of how people view me. But I've always said, I just let my work speak for itself. I think sometimes as a creator, it's very empowering to just keep going and not address those comments or the articles and just be like, you know what, I'm going to let my work speak for itself. And I'm so damn proud of the quality of the content that I produce and that I put out. So I've kind of just allowed myself to get over feeling like I have to whack-a-mole every single person that tries to pigeonhole me as the sex girl. And I'm like, you know what? tune in next week and you'll see that's just not who I am. I can be a part of that, obviously, but I am multidimensional. Like, I can also talk about other things and I can have an opinion on other things, and that should be valid.
100%. And I think I love what you touched on about talking about the taboo things that people are talking about with in their friend circles, or too embarrassed to talk about with their friends. I think you've given this empowering, like an empowering feeling for all of us. We all feel empowered listening to your podcast, being like, yeah, I'm going to talk about this and not be ashamed because everyone else is talking or doing it, and who cares? Or this is something that I haven't wanted to address, and you go there and you navigate us through it. So just keep doing you. I think you can do no wrong, Alex. Now, you interviewed Hailey Bieber, and that interview was everywhere. What was it like, and how did you feel to let her tell her side of the story of so many misconceptions about her, you know?
Totally. I think that's like the beauty of Call Her Daddy. Is the goal whenever I sit down with any guest is for them to feel very safe and comfortable to talk about whatever is personal to them. I have so much respect for Hailey. I think she's truly an incredible person. And I think that in social media, sometimes we really only get little quick snap parts of people, and getting to sit down with her and really trying to help humanize her, I think was just a really incredible experience. And I have so much respect for her. And I think that it allowed people to see we don't know what everyone's going through. And I think that's what Call Her Daddy does really well. It's like, sit down and listen to someone for an hour. You may have preconceived notions of them. You may have judged them in the past, but hopefully by the end, you're going to have a complete different outlook on who they are. And I think it's really cool to be able to facilitate that kind of conversation.
100%. And then we got to talk about the photo. Basically broke the internet when Selena and Hailey, weeks after the podcast, posted together and basically, quote unquote, squashed their beef. And you kind of addressed it. I mean, your involvement in that was so important. So how do you feel seeing that, and then seeing this full circle moment? And I don't know, how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I think the goal on Call Her Daddy a lot of times is, it wasn't even intentional, but I've had a lot of people come on where there is a sense of closure that comes, and it's almost like a therapy session. We have like girl talk for an hour, and usually good comes from it. I think that everything that transpired was genuinely meant to happen, because I feel like it was, again, the internet fuels such negativity towards so many people, obviously. And I think that it was a very eye-opening moment of like, we don't know what everyone's going through. We don't even know the behind the scenes conversations that are being had. And so to prejudge people or to online bully people based off of something that you think you read in an article, or you think, we don't know what's going on in people's relationships. And I think it's important to kind of just stay out of those. And I'm even going to do a better job with my content of not judging people that I don't know. We don't know what anyone's going through. So I think it's incredible, the outcome of everything that came from that episode.
Yeah, understatement. I think it's amazing. You're empowering women to tell their stories. Speaking of empowering stories, you go everywhere with your podcast, and including abortion rights, which a lot of people gravitated towards that episode and took away so many great things from that discussion. How does it feel for you and why is it so important for you to give women a platform to tell these stories and to have these discussions?
I think that Call Her Daddy is always going to be fun, and it's going to give you a good laugh. But I do feel like as I've just evolved as a human being, not even just a creator, just like as a human, getting older, more experiences, I do realize a sense of responsibility that I have with the influence of my show and everything that's going on in the world. It didn't feel right to not address something that so immediately impacts me as a woman, other people that listen to this show. Like, this is essentially an attack on women. And so it felt like the Daddy Gang has been so supportive of when I try new things, and I trusted and I know they trusted me to tackle this topic because it was necessary. I also think it's important for me as a creator that I took my time on that project and really going into the concept of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, because I never want to speak on something that I'm not fully educated on, because I don't appreciate when people just like post random things or repost things and then it turns out that they were spreading false information, or they didn't know what they were really talking about. So it was important for me, knowing how many women listen to my podcast. I was like, I need to get this right, and I need to take my time, and I need to be educated on the topic rather than just doing it for clicks and views. And so it felt very personal, and I felt very connected to it by the time that I met with these women, because I had done the research. And I think it's important with social media that we start to kind of not just take things at face value, that we see people reposting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you've shown that with your growth. You're very honest, and you are very transparent, and you confess when you've misspoken, or you haven't had the right words, or you didn't know stuff. So I think that is what we all need to do. We need to take ownership of our words, because they matter, and our actions matter, and that post on Instagram matters. Like all of those, the assets of our world, it's out there. We're living in a very permanent world right now, that everything's everywhere permanently. Even if you delete it, someone screen grabbed it and it's going to exist.
Oh, they're going to screenshot it.
Oh, they're going to screenshot it. I also want to ask, just as someone who interviews people for a living, I'm curious how you have grown and how you feel you've grown as an interviewer. Henry,
come here.
Henry, you didn't like that.
So sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. No, please don't. Please don't. This is a welcome hello. But how have you felt you've evolved as an interviewer? I mean, from your first kind of celebrity interview with Spotify to now.
I mean, I think that I look back at my first few interviews I did, and there's no denying that I definitely had a lot of work to do, but I'm a very competitive person with myself. I used to play sports. Like, it's just innately in me that I want to be the best at whatever I'm going to do. And so although I started a little rocky because I had no intention to become an interviewer, it kind of just happened with the evolution of the show. I do think that I take pride now in the craft, and I recognize the growth within myself. And I think the most interesting thing for me that maybe is not as similar to maybe other people that are interviewing is like, I then also edit my show. So I'm learning essentially from myself of when I'm editing. I'm like, God, I wish I had stopped that question there, or why did I not do a follow-up there? So it's almost like I'm researching back on myself, and then I'm able to next interview, try to level up from my past interview. So I'm just like competing with myself every week. And I don't know if it's healthy, but
you could talk it out in therapy, but no, I do think it's commendable, because I can't watch, like, I don't like watching myself back. Like, it's like very painful. You say dumb words, you misuse words. You're like, oh, why did my face do that? What's my resting bitch face? All those little things that you start realizing about yourself when you're editing. And I love that about your podcast, because you feel that Alex Cooper is in every aspect of your business.
Yeah, I take that really, I have a lot of pride around what I've built. And I think that it's important for me to always have my hands on the product, because I know Call Her Daddy better than anyone. And so I don't think that it's smart, even if I can sign the biggest deals in the world, it's never going to take me away from this product, because it still to me is my baby. And it's like, I have such immense respect for my audience, and I never want to dilute it just because I'm not as invested. It's like my entire life, and I'm obsessed with it, and I'm obsessed with the daddy gang, and I just, it's a full addiction, and I'm okay with it.
We're okay with it, and we appreciate the addiction, so thank you for it. Okay, so now we're just gonna have fun with some rapid fire. Just kind of first thing that comes to mind. It can be a few words, it can be one, whatever feels right. So I'm gonna take it away. First things first, biggest boss move you've ever made?
Owning my IP.
That's hard. People don't realize you gotta get on that early.
Right. And like fighting to own it. Like, I didn't own it for a second, and I had to refight to get it back. So yeah, that was pretty baller.
Yeah. What does Hailey Bieber smell like?
Oh my God. Fresh, clean. Like she takes 10 showers a day. Beautiful. Love you, Hailey.
Love you, Hailey. Worst place you've ever had sex?
Oh, I would say like my ex-boyfriend's, like it was like a dirty, like a dorm room in college. It just was like disgusting, and who knows who had been there the night before, and I was just on top of it and it wasn't great.
Ooh, okay. That's I really got the visual. Thank you for that. Best place you've ever had sex?
Oh, I would say certain hotel rooms that got decked out for me for like an occasion or a birthday or something. And my current boyfriend goes really all out in stocking the room with fun sexual things and just like very romantic things. And I feel like every time I have an event, I walk in and it's like, oh my God, he set it all up. And it's very romantic and hot.
It's like the fantasy suite.
Right?
What I envisioned the fantasy suite to be. That's great. Okay. Call her daddy or call her Henry.
I mean, Henry is
I'm sorry.
Henry is iconic. I think it's like call like her daddy, AKA Henry. Like Henry just has that like energy that we all respect. And I know I need to bring him into some more interviews because every time he's there, people love watching him like move around.
It's the best. He's the belle of the ball and I love it. Twosome or threesome?
Twosome.
Yep. Celebrity hall pass.
Oh God. I feel like every guy that I thought was hot in the past is now like controversial. Let me think about that. Like I know literally.
Okay, we can come.
I'm like Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp. Like this takes out anything they've done, but like Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean, specifically as a pirate.
As a pirate. Done. Okay, nailed it. New York or LA?
Don't make me choose. Oh my God. I would used to say New York, but I think LA just because my life is so crazy. It's very relaxing to be here. And then I can always pop back to New York when I want to have my adrenaline flowing and my blood pressure up.
Yeah, and your inspiration back. I mean, that city does not sleep and it's amazing. Who is the ultimate dream person to interview on your podcast?
Honestly, I think Oprah.
Are we going to manifest this right now? We're putting it out into the universe.
We're doing it. We're doing it. Oprah, come on, baby.
What does one even ask Oprah? I'm so beyond intimidated.
You know, I would just wear my sweatpants. I would sit down and I would just let it flow.
Let it flow. Love it. And lastly, let's talk Big Daddy energy. How do we get it?
I think having confidence in yourself and not adjusting yourself to please other people. I think it's really hard, especially if you're like dating or you're in a relationship. There's certain things that we try to, obviously compromise can be healthy, but like you lose yourself at times trying to be someone that you're not. And I feel like I've just realized it's so much sexier and more fun and Big Daddy energy when you're like, this is me, take it or leave it. I don't give a if you don't like me. Like, this is who I am. And I feel like comfortable with yourself, the Big Daddy energy is flowing through and just radiating out of you that people really want to be around you.
Father Cooper, you are the best. And I am so happy to come to this church, this session today. This ceremony was fantastic and your sermon is great. So thank you.
I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm Canadian, but I live in LA. So I'm sure our paths will cross at some point, but you you have a huge following in Canada as well. So congratulations on all your successes. We're rooting for you always.
Shout out Daddy Gang in Canada. I love you.
Like the video? Then hit the button, or better yet, drop us a comment. Then check out our latest videos here. And don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button here for more celebrity interviews and entertainment news.